5357 y cuando se le pida el código de acceso, marque el 391-822 y el símbolo de número. Al conectarse a la línea, favor de mantener su micrófono en mudo para evitar ruidos de fondo en la línea telefónica. Y puedes seguir la presentación aquí en esta transmisión de Facebook. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Compassion Center session, Facebook Live. This session will be interpreted from English to Spanish through a phone conference line. To access the conference line for interpretation, please dial 978-990-5357. And when prompted to dial an access code, you can dial 391-822#. Please keep your microphones on mute once you connect to the phone line and to avoid any background noise. And you can follow along the presentation through the Facebook Live. Thank you. Gracias. We can now begin.
Thank you, Naida. And welcome everyone to our Compassion Center, SBRN, Facebook Live. Been doing these since the beginning of COVID, and we are really pleased today, and I am, to have Dr. Frann Wageneck here with us today. And Frann and I, she's the Assistant Superintendent for Santa Barbara Unified School District, but also very involved with student services, a passionate advocate for mental health, and my partner colleague in the community in dealing with many, many incidents that we've dealt with together and with our partners. So I thought it was wonderful that Frann made the time today to be here with us and talk about what all of us are thinking about, what's happening with our schools, what's happening with our students, how can we support each other. If someone who is wondering what they can do, how they can help, there are probably numerous ways that we can help each other and our students. But I'm just really pleased to have you here, Frann, and to have this conversation. And it will be recorded so we can share it. And welcome. So,
well, thank you. Thanks for having me, Gina. Appreciate being able to be here and share what information I can.
Yeah. And I think probably and of course, we're going to ask people if they have questions to put it on Facebook, and then we'll be able to share them with Frann, or you can send them to us also. We hope this to be a dialogue. And I think, Frann, the question that I have and many people have is, going forward in the school year, we're not going to be reopening the schools. Just a little background on how that decision came about, how you feel about the decision, how you see the school year coming forward, and what you can share about that.
Yeah, well, the process began back in late April. I mean, really, in our minds, it started on March 13th, which is the day we decided to close schools. You know, we knew we were going to have to reopen eventually, not have to, get to reopen eventually, but what would that look like? And, COVID has done an interesting thing, and that is to really force all of us to live in what we call the gray, live in the gray. There's not a lot of black and white. There aren't a lot of clear answers out there. And living in the gray space of ambiguity is really difficult, and more difficult for some people than others. So I think when we closed, there were many people who thought, okay, we can stick this out for a month, it's going to be fine. And like others of us were like, yeah, I knew when we closed, we were closed for the school year. And I think that's just how people are built. Some of us are built
Mhm.
more optimistic than others, and I tend to be. It pays off sometimes to be more of a realist, but
Yeah.
sometimes I wish I was more of a dreamer. Um, but in any event, we as a leadership team at the end of April really started looking to August 18th, which is the day we start school back up. And what we knew was that we didn't know. We didn't know what COVID was going to be doing in August. And so we went at it from 3 different scenarios. We knew one of 3 things would happen. One, we'd be completely reopening and back to school full on. We knew that an opposite option would be we'd be 100% remote or distance learning. And then we also knew it could look like something in between where we would need to have a limited number of students on campus at a time. So we'd need to develop a hybrid model. So that's really what the form that our planning took on, was preparing for all 3 of those scenarios. We were set to make a recommendation to our school board on the 22nd. However, on the 17th, the governor, the 17th of July, the governor made the call that all schools in counties that are on the watch list would have to utilize distance learning until they were off the watch list for 14 consecutive days. So Santa Barbara County has been on the watch list since June 6th. We haven't had one single day off the watch list in that time. So that's kind of what got us here, is we were ready to pivot to whatever scenario. And then in the end, it's good that we planned for distance learning, because now here we are. I think one last thing in terms of this question I'd like to let people know is we don't want folks to think that distance learning in August, when we start school, is going to look like what it looked like in the spring. In the spring, we were teaching under emergency conditions. We had very little time to plan. We had very little time to provide any professional learning to our teachers and other staff. We're in a different spot now. And so I encourage folks to go back and maybe watch our last board meeting where some of that was outlined, and then watch our next board meeting to really learn more.
Mhm.
We're putting out a distance learning plan early next week that families will have in their hands to really know what it's going to look like. And it will be very different than what we were doing under the emergency conditions.
Wonderful. And where can people find that? We can put that on our Facebook link. So it's next week. Do you know when, Fran, or should we just look at the
It should be out by Monday, and it can be found on our website, sbunified.com. And all parents within this and students within the Santa Barbara Unified School District will receive that, as will our obviously our staff members, teachers will receive that in advance.
Yeah, good. So that'll be, but that's a very, an interesting point that when it was like we've gone through a series of emergencies and disasters in Santa Barbara. I mean, COVID is on the end of several other disasters where we've had to respond quickly. We've had to deal with what we had to do. And then with time, our disaster relief planning response has been refined, thought out, and it's a very different scenario than when we just went out, let's get out there and help these people. So that's an interesting point, because I do think people may not think, well, we've had time. There's been time to kind of plan for some of this. So I'm pleased to hear that. Are you optimistic, Fran, I mean, I know you're a realist, but that we may turn, I mean, 14 days is a long time to be off the list. But let's say, okay, we're off the list for 14 days. Could you turn around and go into full school on, or would you do a hybrid? Have you thought that far?
We have, and we can, that's an important point. We continue to plan for the next step because, you know, I am optimistic that if we all, I'm looking around for my mask, you know, if we all wear this thing and
Absolutely.
practice our distancing and be safe, that's the only way that we're going to get kids back in school. So, and we want kids back in school. I want to say as much as their parents do. You know, that's what we do.
Yeah.
We're educators. We want students in school. So there's got to be that. Can we turn it around? I believe we can. It's going to take a big effort because we need to, one of the major metrics is having over 100 per 100,000 positive cases. And right now, we track this data every day. It's over 340 active cases per 100,000. So it's leveled off over the last week, but we haven't seen a decline yet. Also, our testing rate is up around 10% positive tests, and we need that to be below 8%. So there is work that has to be done, but I believe we can do it. And the district, we will be ready when that time comes. We don't want people to think that if on a Thursday we hit our 14th day and we're off the watch list, that on Friday or Monday, we're back to school with students. It won't be that quickly. Because there are a lot of pieces that go into running schools. However, all of our safety precautions are being finalized right now. All those things are being taken care of. So I feel like we're going to be ready to go when it's time, but we do need parents in the community to know that it won't be a day or two. You know, it'll take a little bit of time to get 17 schools up and running.
Yeah, but you're preparing, and
we're preparing.
Well, thank you. And I mean, the decision to do this is very important. We have to keep our families and our children safe. I mean, this is very important that we follow these safety guidelines and keep our community safe and stop the spread. We have to. So the question that's, there are a couple of questions that came in, and I also want to encourage people, if they have questions, to put them in Facebook or send them to SBRN, and I can forward them to Fran. But you and I have worked really closely on mental health, and with COVID, we're all concerned for the mental health, well-being of our families and our students. What have you, going forward, what are some of the things you're implementing for students, even with distance learning, that you can share with us? Or what are your hopes to be able to deal with that issue?
Well, I'd say the first thing we're doing is we got permission or clearance from Santa Barbara County Public Health to have students on campus meeting with an adult in a one-to-one situation. And what that's going to allow us to do is have our mental health therapists from Family Service Agency and Calm be able to meet with students in person with protection, plexiglass masks, etc. But rather than telehealth, and families will have the option of doing telehealth or in person. So that's good. That's great. We're looking at expanding the services, looking for the funding to be able to expand services not only to students, but to run family groups, through counseling, through CALM and FSA, to help our parents cope with COVID and the difficulties that distance learning can bring. And so those are the big ones, but so we have some funding leads right now that we're hoping will pan out to help make that happen. Mental health services are absolutely available to all of our students, regardless of economic needs. Sometimes that's one of the myths that's out there, is that students have to have a monetary need or economic need in order to take advantage of our services at school. It's absolutely not true. So, and we encourage students to self-refer them, or for parents to call their school counselors and ask for a referral to mental health. So
Wonderful.
we encourage them to do that.
That's great. That's great that that's available, and especially the one-on-one and in person. That's really valuable. I think that part of the thing that we're all concerned about is all the computer time, the lack of any physical contact. I mean, we're all feeling that, all of us, and we're all feeling for our children and our students. But that's great. So they can get a referral if they call the school. They can get a referral for mental health services or to talk to their counselor. So that's still going on. Right. And I know I've been sharing some of the messaging that you did. We created some videos that we've been getting out on suicide prevention, and you created those, when we were working with a lot of suicide prevention efforts in the school. So those we've been sharing and messaging about how to get help, that there is help available. Students are not alone. There are a lot of services, Family Service Agency, CALM, behavioral wellness. I mean, there are a lot of services. So if any families are tuning in through Santa Barbara Response Network, we've put our number up, but you can call me and I can certainly work not just with Frann, with other partners to get any mental health services that you need, we can refer on. It's 699-5608. That's 805-699-5608. And we have a bilingual line, English and Spanish. So if anybody's needing help, we can certainly get families connected. And there is help. I can tell you right now, there is help.
Gina, we also,
we're fortunate.
Oh, sorry. We also have resources on our district website, specifically for mental wellness, social emotional learning for families and for students. Quite a large collection there, and we encourage families to access that. We also are focusing, as part of our distance learning launch, focusing on relationships and the social emotional part of school. So teachers will be encouraged to, spend the first week developing relationships. It's important, I mean, as much or more than it is in a face-to-face setting, to be able to develop the relationships. And we are, concerned about, especially our little ones, our transitional kindergarten and kindergartners going to school for the first time in a virtual setting. I'm sure is anxiety provoking for their parents who, have an idea of what the first day of kindergarten would look like, and it's going to look a lot different. But we want the kids to really be able to connect to their teachers. And then I think about like incoming 7th graders. That's a big deal. Or students going into 9th grade, their first day of high school will be online. And so, trying to ease that transition through the building of relationships with their classmates and with their teachers.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. Those you said relationship is really, we're a relationship based organism, you know, and so we're having to find those relationships wherever we can get them. And it seems like Zoom is now like what we're doing, but we're adaptive. And I keep hearing over and over again, as a species, we've been through this before. We've been through pandemics and wars, and we've come through this. So we have to keep that in mind, that we're there's a part of us that is resilient, and that's in children as well as adults. Yeah. So there was a question that came in from one of your community partners, and she, like we do, have a memorandum of understanding with the school district, and they were working directly with students doing tutoring and working with teachers. And she was wondering what you're going forward, how she can help, or that group can help provide services, since, you know, there's now the remote learning aspect. Are you still working with partners?
Yeah, I would say we want our community partners to understand, again, that we were in an emergency situation, and trying to figure out how to do that with all the liability and privacy standards that occur when you're working online. This is a good opportunity for me to share that the United Way has created kind of a consortium of nonprofits in our community who are coming together to provide childcare. And when I say childcare, really up through 8th grade, perhaps, to children in our community, to provide opportunities for students to work. And so they do need not tutoring, but actually locations where they can come, hopefully in their neighborhoods, and do their work, attend school remotely while their parents are at work. And so it's a way of keeping our economy in Santa Barbara going, keeping people employed by providing these locations. So to that partner who wrote in, I would say having them contact the United Way about becoming part of that consortium, and serving our students in that way would be an excellent way to provide services. And then they could do tutoring after the school day is over with students who remain there until their parents pick them up at 5 or 6 o'clock, whatever time that runs out. We are also
great.
Yeah, it's a really large movement.
Really great.
United Way has taken it on and is the organizing entity, but many of the nonprofits, community-based organizations that serve children and youth in our community are coming together to provide these locations, and then provide the adult care and oversight during the school day. Our students will have their iPads. We're providing noise reducing headphones to all of our students. Because we know many of them live in households that have a lot of people living in them. So it's a way of being able to reduce the noise and really focus. And so these organizations are coming together to provide the space and the care for children during that time. And then the district, we are also looking at childcare on our school sites looking first at our staff and teachers who need childcare, because while they're teaching, their children need to be going to school or have care. So we're also looking at that, and we're working with United Way to build and provide all of this, which to me is a mental health service, because as a parent, if I'm stressed out about childcare and how I'm going to make that happen, that has repercussions down the line, that level of anxiety. So.
Absolutely. This is wonderful news. I didn't know this. I'm really pleased to share this broadly. I mean, I interviewed on Alana from Calm, who's a mother herself and running Calm, and just talking about parents and mental health and the stress that they're feeling, having to teach and work and financial stress. So all these options that are becoming available are just so valuable, because we've got, these parents are burdened, deeply burdened. And like you said, if a parent's not available, it's a mental health issue for not just the parent, but the child and the relationship and the family. So I'm really glad to hear this. I did not know, so I'm really pleased to share this, and I'll be putting it out there. So United Way and the partners are really stepping up and offering us. This is great. Wonderful. And the last question I had more to do with my interest in self-care, my interest in resilience, our conversations over the years about how do you deal, because you and I have dealt, like we said, with disasters and rashes of suicides. And when we were talking a few months back, and you were working at home and saying, you know, there were some advantages, and I've been working at home ever since too, not advantages, but ways that our lives in some ways gotten better, in some ways the quality of life. But then also I'm curious when I talk to people here, what are you finding is helping you to get through this in terms of yourself and not just your job, but your life? What are you finding is helping you and to cope, and your self-care, and any things that you've gotten out of this time that's been really valuable for you in terms of your own life? I'm just curious to.
Oh, there's been a lot that's come out of it. I think for me, it's just getting a lot more simple with everything. And it may sound cliched, but just figuring out, like, what's the main thing, keeping the main thing, and being with my partner, and our tribe has been small. So we've like established who our people are, who we connect with, who we, socially distance with in the yard, our immediate family and a few friends, and that's it. And being thankful for having those people. It's been really important. So for me, it's just been like, I think I was enjoying the simplicity of being at home and enjoying my home. But I'm fortunate because I have a calm, non-dramatic home, and some people don't have that. So it's a different experience. But I think that's for me.
Yeah.
Keeping it real simple, and also being kind of taking everything as it comes, and not, it sounds funny because we've been planning for the opening of school and all this stuff in the future, but for me it's about just doing what's the next thing and not thinking about the future a whole lot, like, and not having expectations for the future either, because that's where disappointment comes from. If I create, like, here's what it has to look like in 3 weeks, I don't want to be disappointed.
Yeah, you're living in the moment.
I don't have hope. I have hope.
Yeah.
And I know all.
I understand. Yeah. At some point, yes, we know. But, and before we close, is there anything you want to share, not just with parents and students, but our communities? Anything on your mind or in your heart that you just.
I think it's that this is everything that we've heard before. It's it's a once in a lifetime event. It's big. It's going to be with us for a while. And everyone needs to make their own choices and decisions. You know, some families are really grappling with what to do in terms of their children's education. And I would say that we respect that, but we want everyone to know that we're going to do the absolute best we can, given the circumstances, to give your child the best education they can possibly get, and to include you in that as our full partners in that. And, you know, you should have high expectations of Santa Barbara Unified, that we're going to be there for your child and for you. And if students are listening, because I know, you know, we know this is hard for you, but we're committed to making it the best we can, and we want to hear from you. So, you know, that's there. And I realize in speaking, I haven't even talked about the other pandemic, and the pandemic of racism that we've been dealing with, and social justice.
Just thought that.
That's a whole, I mean, we really have dual pandemics going on, and it's a lot. And we have to fight both of them at the same time. So to our students, we're committed to making sure that you all are affirmed and included in everything that we do.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Fran, because I know that's been a huge issue in our community, in the world. So, and we've had and I know a lot of effort's been put out in Santa Barbara and the schools to make those changes. I don't know if there's anything more you want to share about that, but I know that that's very important to you.
It is. And I would just say that the young people who are leading the work in our community just blow me away. They're just amazing human beings, and I have such respect for them, and I'm really looking forward to working with them more on changing the way we do things for the better. But we made some commitments to them, and we'll be following through. But yeah, they're pretty fantastic, and our community should be proud of them. Yeah.
Yes, we had a Facebook Live with Shakir, and you know, after the school board meeting, and I mean, he just blew me away. I mean, I just like, these youth are, I'm just, wow, we're lucky that we have that, and that there is that dialogue, and that you're responding, and we need to support them and see that, you know, what they're asking for gets accomplished, you know. So unless we have more questions on the line, Nida, did you get anything, or Sachi on Facebook? Then we'll end the, no, nothing there. Okay. And we'll be sharing this on our Facebook, on our social media website. We'll share it with Fran so we can get it out. And once again, I really appreciate your time, Fran, your dedication to our community and our students. And I know that that's really one of the foremost priorities in your life. So thank you.
Thank you
for all you're doing for us. Thank you so much.
I appreciate being here.
So have a good evening.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Anytime. Come on. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.